Hi everyone, my name's Maddie and I work in the online education team here at Hootsuite, and today we're going to cover how to get started with Hootsuite. And by the end of this video, my goal is to have your Hootsuite account looking like mine. So set up with different streams, having all your social accounts connected, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and also creating some content and getting it scheduled and into your calendar queue. So this is just a little sneak peek of what it's going to look like in the end, but let's go back to the very beginning and I'll show you how I set all this up. So now that we've signed up for our Hootsuite account and we're in the dashboard, we're ready to start monitoring and setting up some boards and streams. Because it's my first time in the dashboard, I've got this Get Started button and it's going to lead me through some basic setup of streams. So I'm going to hit Get Started. And it's prompting me to select a social network to connect. So because we haven't actually connected a social network yet, they're all grayed out. So I'm going to hit Add Social Network. And because Twitter's first, I'll connect with my Twitter. So here I'm just going to follow the prompts to authorize Hootsuite to access my account. So I'm going to log in. And now we can see that Twitter has a check mark beside it and it's no longer grayed out. We've connected that to our Hootsuite account. So I'm going to hit Next and I'm going to add it to my dashboard. So you can see it's auto-populated a couple streams for me just to get me started. So when you're in Hootsuite, you have the flexibility to set up your boards and streams however you like, but I like to organize everything by social channel. So I'm going to start this first board as a board for Twitter. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to rename it Twitter. And so it's already set me up with a couple streams. So I've got the My Tweets stream, which is showing me all of my tweets coming out of Twitter. I've also got this Mentions stream. This stream is letting me see every time someone has mentioned me and is having a conversation, so I can immediately respond there. I'd also suggest adding a home stream. So the home stream is letting me see things on my Twitter homepage of my newsfeed, so I can see anything that I may want to interact with. And I'd also suggest adding a search stream. What this will let me do is it allows me to monitor key hashtags or topics that I may want to be paying attention to. So if I wanted to see what people are talking about, for example, hotels, I'll just put that in there and search for it. And that's going to show me every time that hashtag hotels has been mentioned across Twitter. So I've got my Twitter board pretty well set up here. I also want to create one for Facebook, but before I can pull any of my Facebook information in, I need to connect my page. So anytime you want to connect a social network in Hootsuite, it's really simple. You just go down to the My Profile button at the bottom left of the navigation, and then you'll see this Social Networks and Teams button. So if we click on that, it takes me to all my social networks and teams. So you can see that I've got my Twitter account connected here. So I want to add another one, so I'll click on Private Network, and I'll select Facebook. And I'll follow the prompts the same way that I did with Twitter. And I'll select the page that I want to connect and hit done. Great, so now you can see that my Facebook page is connected down here along with my Twitter page. So to get back to our main dashboard, we'll simply click on the Streams button up here. And now we want to create that Facebook board similar to the Twitter board that we created. So I'm going to select New Board. And that gives me the option to rename it. I'm going to rename it first because sometimes I forget. There we go. Facebook. And I'm going to go to the Get Started button on Browse All Streams. I'm going to change the network here to Facebook, and that's going to give me a few different monitoring options here, as you can see. So for Facebook, I'm going to add my timeline. That's just going to show me everything that's on my Facebook timeline. I'm also going to add my posts, so I can see all my live posts. And I'll add an @mention stream, which is the same as Twitter. It shows me anytime I've been mentioned across Facebook. Another interesting one is the scheduled posts. So right now I don't have anything scheduled, but if I did, all my scheduled posts would appear here, and it would give me an idea of some of the scheduled content that's going out. So now that we've got our Facebook and Twitter streams set up and they're looking really good, we can start to cover how to create a message. So the first thing to double check before we start creating messages in Hootsuite is making sure that our account and settings are set up right. So in order to access our account and settings, we go to this My Profile button in the bottom left navigation, and then you can select account settings at the top. So there's a few things we can do. Here is where you can add an image so that your profile has a photo, as well as you're able to check your time zone here. So make sure this is the right time zone for where you're working so that when we do schedule posts in a second, they're going to go out in the right time zone. I'm in Vancouver, so that's looking good for me. The last thing you can look at is under preferences. You have the option to change the language. You can change this to French, German, Italian, whatever you like. I'm going to work in English today, so I think we're good here. And then you just hit Save Preferences at the end to save any changes that you made. All right, so now we've got all our searching and monitoring set up. We've got our account settings good to go. So let's create a post and schedule out some content for the upcoming week. So to get started, you click the Composer button. So the Composer button can be accessed here from anywhere in the dashboard. And the Composer will immediately pop up, and you can choose which networks you want to schedule to. So I'm going to schedule to Facebook and Twitter simultaneously for this post. And once I have the channels selected, I can add in my text and any links that I want to direct my audience to. So right away, you'll see that because I've added in a link, I get this immediate preview of how it would look. But if you don't like this photo or you want to swap it for your own photo or a photo from our free library of photos, you're totally able to do that. So if you want to upload your own, you would just go here, drag and drop your file, or click to upload from your computer. Or you have the option, you can go to Open Media Library. And here you have access to our stock image library. So because I'm doing a post about travel, I'm going to search travel within this library. I'm going to find a photo that I like. I like this one, so I'm going to select it. And if I close this, now I can see that that photo has replaced the photo that was there before. I can also preview what this post is going to look like on each network before it goes out, so I can see the cropping and how it differs from platform to platform. So one thing that I have noticed as I'm looking at this post is that my link looks pretty long and clunky. Hootsuite does have an automatic link shortener built in, so all you have to do is select Shorten with Owly. And once we select that, we see that the link is automatically condensed over in the preview section. It looks way cleaner to my audience, and it also uses less characters, which can be really helpful if you're sharing to Twitter. And just a note here that the updated link is going to appear in the preview, but your text box is going to have the original link in it. So right now I'm pretty happy with how this post is looking, and I'm ready to schedule it out. So to schedule, I just go down to the Schedule for Later button. And once I select that, I have the option to pick a day and time that I want it to go out. So let's say I want it to go out next Wednesday at 2 p.m. and I'll click Done. So I'll click the Schedule button and it'll schedule both of these posts for that time. So now I've scheduled that post. We can actually see it in this scheduled stream from our Facebook board we set up earlier. Before it had nothing in it, but now we've scheduled something, so we can see it here, which is pretty exciting. All right, so now we're going to head over to the publisher and view all of the content that we've just scheduled. So once we get to the publisher and the planner, we can see this calendar. And if we go to where we've scheduled our content for next week, we can see that our Twitter and our Facebook posts are both there, scheduled on the 9th when we scheduled them for, which is really exciting. And you can also see there's a couple other pieces of content that I've previously scheduled. So know that if you ever want to preview a post, you can just click on it and it's going to bring up some details over here. It'll tell you the network it's going to, the scheduled time, any alt text that's with it. And if you want to make any edits, you can click this pencil up at the top and that will open up the compose box and you can make any edits as needed on the original post. Also, if you click here on these more options, you can delete the post, duplicate the post, or move the post to your drafts. Also know that you can just grab any of these posts and move them to a different date and time to reschedule them. The planner's really interactive. It's super easy to make changes if you need to. Great, so now that you've got all your content scheduled for the week and you've seen it all in your planner, now I'm going to go over some tips and tricks that can really help with the engagement side and the back and forth with people that may be mentioning you in your audience, and also how you can cater some of those searches that we set up earlier to be a little bit more specific for what you're looking for. So when it comes to engagement, let's say we have an example like this post over here where we've got someone who's asking us a question or they've been trying to reach us on Twitter. Know that you can respond right here. So you have the option to reply, you can retweet with some other options down here, and you also have the option to like this. You're probably not going to like it in this instance because it's not a very happy customer, but it is a good opportunity to reach out to them and reply. So when it comes to that initial hotel search that we made earlier, there's a few ways that we can narrow this down to get a little more of a specific search. So if we click on this little gray magnifying glass at the top, it's going to give me a few options. So if I choose to filter by followers, I can drag this bar And I can filter by follower size. Basically, this will only show me posts of people or brands that have a following of, let's say, 2,500 plus people. Also, if I wanted to filter by any additional search words, I can do that as well. So if I just switch this drop down to search, and I can search for, let's say, Canada, and I would just see posts that contain hashtag hotel and also mentions Canada. So for Facebook, really all the same rules apply. If I want to respond to any of the posts that have been made on my timeline, I can respond right underneath, just like I would natively. Woohoo, we have a pool, very exciting. Also, if I had comments coming in, I could respond there too, or anywhere that I've been mentioned. So at this point, you've basically got your Hootsuite account set up. You've scheduled your first pieces of content. You've got some great search streams set up so you can see what's happening on Twitter and Facebook. And I'd just like to add that everything we did today was for Facebook and Twitter, but you can also set this up for other social networks such as LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. We didn't do that today just so we could focus on two things, but I invite you to go explore those options on your own, following the same setup as we did for Facebook and Twitter here. So this should make your day-to-day a lot easier and allow you to be a lot more proactive. The last thing that I always recommend taking a look at is the app directory. So we can find that by going to the My Profile button at the bottom here and then selecting App Directory. So Hootsuite has a ton of different apps to choose from, and a ton of them are free, which is really cool. So you can just browse free apps here by clicking free, or you can search for a specific integration. So for example, I use Google Drive a lot. And I can see that we've got Cloud View for Hootsuite, which is Google Drive, so I can install that here for free. So overall, that's the way I like to set up my accounts. I hope you found it useful. It's a really great way to start and should provide a really good starting point to start keeping track of what's going on in your social calendar. And it's always helpful to remember that if you have any questions, you can reach out to our help center, customer support, or view any of our Hootsuite Academy content over here. So in our next video, we're going to dive into some Hootsuite professional features, so a little deeper on social networks, bulk scheduling, and editing photos using Hootsuite Analytics. I'll put that video in the bottom here when it's ready, and you can go check that out later if you'd like. Thanks, everyone!